Every morning, Mrs. Eleanor White woke up before the sun, not because she had somewhere to go, but because sleep no longer stayed with her very long. She lived in a small, quiet house at the edge of town, the same house where she had once raised her children. The walls still held their laughter, but now the rooms were silent, too silent. Eleanor was 68 years old. Her husband had died 10 years ago, and her two children had grown up, married, and moved far away. At first, they called often. Then the calls became shorter, then rarer, and slowly they stopped. She understood, or at least she told herself she did. "They are busy," she would whisper while making tea for one. "They have their own lives." But understanding did not erase loneliness. Every Sunday, Eleanor set the table for three. She placed the plates carefully, just like she used to. Sometimes she even cooked her son's favorite dish, hoping, without reason, that he might suddenly appear at the door. When the food grew cold, she wrapped it quietly and put it away. No one saw her tears. Mothers are used to hiding pain. Years ago, Eleanor had given everything to her children. She worked long hours, skipped meals, and wore the same old coat winter after winter so they could have better clothes, better schools, better futures. She never complained. Love, to her, meant sacrifice. Now, her phone lay untouched on the table for weeks at a time. One rainy afternoon, Eleanor slipped on the wet floor and hurt her leg badly. She lay there for hours, unable to stand, calling out names that no one could hear. Eventually, a neighbor found her and took her to the hospital. In the hospital room, surrounded by white walls and quiet machines, Eleanor felt smaller than ever. The nurse asked gently, "Shall I call your family?" Eleanor hesitated, then she nodded. When her children finally arrived days later, they looked uncomfortable, almost like visitors. They spoke politely, asked quick questions, and checked their watches often. They did not notice how thin she had become, or how her hands trembled when she reached for water. But something changed that day. As they prepared to leave, Eleanor spoke, softly but clearly. "I never wanted much," she said, "just to be remembered." Her words hung in the air like a mirror. For the first time, her children truly saw her, not as a responsibility, not as a past chapter, but as a living, breathing mother who had been waiting patiently, silently. Tears filled her daughter's eyes. "We forgot," she whispered, "and I'm so sorry." Sometimes love does not disappear. Sometimes it is just buried under time, distance, and carelessness. Eleanor returned home a few weeks later. This time, the phone rang more often. Visits came. Not perfect, not constant, but real. The house felt warmer again. She was no longer invisible. And though the years had taken much from her, one thing remained untouched: a mother's heart, still open, still forgiving. After Eleanor returned home from the hospital, the house felt different, but not completely healed. Her daughter, Anna, called every evening. Her son, Michael, visited once a month. They brought groceries, medicine, and polite smiles. They did what they thought was right, yet something was still missing. Eleanor felt it in the quiet pauses between conversations. She felt it when they left too quickly. They cared now, but they did not stay. One evening, Eleanor sat by the window, watching children play outside. Their laughter drifted into her room, sharp and sweet at the same time. Her heart ached, not with anger, but with an old, familiar pain. She remembered the nights she stayed awake beside her children's beds when they had fevers, the dreams she gave up, the life she never lived for herself, and she wondered quietly, was I only needed when I was strong? Weeks passed. One day, Eleanor received a letter. Not a bill, not an advertisement. A real letter, written by hand. It was from Anna. Mom, I keep thinking about what you said in the hospital. I just want it to be remembered. I realized something painful. We remembered you when we needed you, but forgot you when you needed us. Eleanor's hands shook as she read. I don't want to make that mistake again. Please let me come home for a while, not as a guest, but as your daughter. Tears fell onto the paper. For the first time in years, Eleanor cried without hiding. Anna arrived 2 weeks later with a small suitcase and tired eyes. She hugged her mother tightly, longer than necessary, longer than polite. Eleanor felt the warmth of that embrace sink into places that had been cold for years. Living together was not easy. There were silences, old wounds, unspoken regrets, but there was also shared tea in the mornings, slow walks in the evening, laughter over burnt toast. Michael began visiting more often too. Sometimes he stayed for dinner, sometimes he stayed just to listen. Eleanor did not ask for apologies anymore. She asked for time, and slowly her children learned something life had never taught them before. A mother does not stop being a mother when her hair turns gray. She does not stop needing love when she stops giving everything. She simply waits, not because she is weak, but because her heart is patient. Time passed gently after Anna moved back home. Eleanor smiled more, but her body was growing weaker. Age had begun to take its quiet revenge. Some mornings, her legs refused to carry her far. Some nights, pain kept her awake. Still, she never complained. Mothers rarely do. Anna noticed the changes before anyone else. She saw how her mother paused before standing, how she hid her trembling hands inside her shawl. Guilt settled heavy in her chest. How long was she like this? Alone? Anna wondered. One afternoon, Eleanor found an old box under her bed. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Letters she had written to her children over the years but never sent. Some were folded neatly, some were stained with tears. Anna opened one. Today I cooked your favorite meal. I ate it alone, but I imagined you sitting across from me. Another read, I don't want to disturb your life. I just want you to remember that I'm still here. Anna couldn't breathe. That evening, she showed the letters to Michael when he arrived. He read them silently, his jaw tightening with every word. A man who had faced the world without fear now struggled to meet his mother's eyes. Mom, why didn't you tell us? He asked. Eleanor smiled softly. Because love doesn't beg. That night, something finally broke inside them. Not Eleanor, but her children. Michael canceled a job transfer he had been planning. Anna rearranged her life completely. They took turns staying with their mother, listening to her stories, holding her hand during restless nights. For the first time in decades, Eleanor was not alone. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, Eleanor whispered, I think my time is getting shorter. Anna shook her head. Don't say that. But Eleanor only smiled. I'm not afraid, she said. I was afraid of being forgotten. Not anymore. She closed her eyes, surrounded by voices she loved. And for the first time in many years, she fell asleep peacefully, without waiting. The night was unusually quiet. Eleanor lay in her bed, her breathing soft and slow. The moonlight slipped through the curtains, resting gently on her tired face. Anna sat beside her, holding her hand. Michael stood near the window, afraid to sit, afraid that if he did, this moment would become too real. Eleanor opened her eyes. "My children," she whispered. They leaned closer. "I want you to promise me something," she said. "When I'm gone, don't remember me with guilt. Remember me with love." Tears rolled down Anna's face. "We promise, Mom." Eleanor smiled, a small, peaceful smile. "I was never angry," she continued. "I was just waiting." Her grip loosened, her breath grew lighter. Then it stopped. No pain, no struggle, just silence. For a long moment, neither Anna nor Michael moved. They held her hands, hoping for warmth that would not return. Eleanor White passed away that night, not forgotten, but finally seen. The house felt empty again, but not cold. At the funeral, the church filled with people Eleanor had quietly helped over the years, neighbors, old coworkers, strangers who remembered her kindness when her own children had not. Anna and Michael stood side by side, humbled. They found a note in Eleanor's drawer afterward. Written in shaky handwriting, it read, "If you are reading this, then you remembered me." That was always enough. Years later, Anna kept the house. She turned Eleanor's room into a warm, sunlit space filled with photographs and fresh flowers. Michael called every Sunday, without fail. They spoke often about their mother, not as a regret, but as a lesson. Because some love is so quiet, the world forgets to listen. And some mothers give so much, they ask for nothing except to be remembered.